Alright guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today I'm going to show you how to install a wired brake controller on your BMW. A lot of these SUVs come with optional trailer packages, and a lot of us want to do things like tow our cars, boats, or RVs, but it requires a brake controller to safely do that. And the cool thing is, in a lot of newer BMWs made after 2019 or so, they come pre-wired to wire up a brake controller underneath the dash. So even though there isn't built-in functionality from the factory, it's pretty easy to retrofit a kit and add that capability to your BMW so it works perfectly integrated with your towing mode and everything else. So I'm going to demonstrate this install on my G07 X7, but this process also applies to G05 X5s as well as G01 X3s. I'll show you guys how to check and confirm that you actually have the wiring under the dash to make this work, and then I'll show you guys how to install it. So let's go ahead and hop over to the car and I'll show you how it's done. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. All right, so we're ready to get started, and first of all, I apologize if you hear all that noise in the background. The cicadas are very happy that they've lived more than 48 hours without getting hit by a car. Anyway, so we're working outside today. So the first two things we are going to remove are these two screws. There's one, and there's another one. And we are going to remove this little drawer on the driver's side just underneath the steering wheel. So remove those screws. It should be a T20 on both sides. And then once you've removed the screw, it should just pull straight down and out. Perfect. And then there should be in here a plug for the brake controller. Oh, and yep, I see it. So it can be in a different spot on a lot of different cars, but I think that's it, kind of poking out right there. So I'm gonna reach back there and just pull it loose. And there you go, you can see it. So cars that come with the towing package, I believe, should have this plug. If you have a 2019 or 2020, even if it doesn't have the towing package, I've also heard that it has this plug. So this is kind of the first step. Just take off that drawer and open it up and see if you can find the wire back here. And that's going to be what we're going to wire up to our brake controller. So now that you've confirmed that your car actually has the connector for a brake controller, the next thing to do is get the brake controller itself. So this is the one that I went with. It is the Redarc Tow Pro Elite. I'll have my Amazon link in the video description if you want to go the same route I did. But I went with this for a couple reasons. One is it's a proportional controller. So if you brake hard, it'll brake the trailer brakes hard. If you brake soft, it'll brake the trailer brakes soft. So it kind of matches how hard you're trying to slow down the car so it doesn't like overwhelm the trailer brakes. And then the other thing is this main controller can be mounted behind the dash wherever you want. And then you remotely mount the actual adjustment knob. So you can mount this anywhere on your dash or your center console, anything like that. It's just really convenient to make install nice and clean. I'll probably keep it loose while I'm testing it out the first time, but eventually I'll find a permanent spot to put it. Now, there is a little bit of wiring required because to get that connector, you need to order it from Porsche. So this is the connector that you need. This is the part number for it. Again, I'll have it in the video description in case you need that. But I bought it from my local Porsche dealership. And then we also need these pins for the wire. And here's the part number for that. This one you can get from BMW. So for whatever reason, BMW doesn't sell the connector anymore, but Porsche had that. I was able to get it the next day once I placed an order. So what we're going to do is take this off, open this up, and then we will crimp the connectors onto the wiring harness. Now, I've heard of some people soldering these, and the only thing to be aware of is solder does have its drawbacks. You know, it's great for a connector where everything is kind of out in the open that you can see. But if you put too much solder in here, it can actually go back into the insulation and cause a weak point where a break can cause damage and create issues. So I'm just going to crimp it on. If you guys want to use solder for additional safety, you can, but most automotive connectors just rely on crimping, and that's good enough for me. So you kind of slide it on like this, and then we're going to crimp down each of these wings. So just kind of make sure it's secure, and then these wings at the back add additional security to crimp it onto the insulation. So it should look like that when it's all done. It's nice and secure. So we'll do that for all four. Now some of these aren't the same size. You'll be able to tell some of the wires are thinner than the others, so just make sure you crimp it down appropriately. Now I'm gonna try to remember this because the colors are all different. I don't know why they do such different colors, but here's what the connector looks like again on the actual BMW plug. So the black wire towards the back that you can barely see, that's the brake switch. So that's like your brake light wire. The red wire is your 12-volt power supply. The blue wire is your trailer brake. And then the brown wire is your ground. So that kind of helps tell you what each wire does. But of course, all the colors on here are different. So on here, the black wire is battery positive, as you can see. And then the red wire is the brake light wire. So this is the one that actually goes to the black wire on the BMW harness. And then the blue wire, this is our actual trailer brake. So you can see it says brake output. And then the white wire, this is our ground. So what I am going to do is basically push these in here. It should lock into place. So now what we're going to do is start with this side that has the 3 tabs. On this side, we're going to start with that pointed up. And this one on the right is our ground. So let's just double check. Yep, battery negative. So that'll go in this corner. Then we've got the trailer brake, which is our blue wire. So that should go in this one. And then we've got our power supply, which for whatever reason is black on here. So that'll go in there. And then we've got our brake switch or the brake light, which goes in this one all the way to the left and should plug into the black wire in the car. So just double and triple check, you know, the wire order and everything. But basically, if you match it up to what's in the car, also you can look at these pins, like see these triangles. That'll help you confirm the orientation, and then you'll have everything ready to be plug and play. And then we're going to go ahead and plug this into our brake controller. So push that in, and then on the other side we've got the extra harness for our remote little adjusting knob. So again, plug this in, and now we're ready to install this on the car. All right, so now we've got everything plugged in, and you can see in here we've got it plugged into the factory brake controller plug. And as soon as I plugged it in, I had the actual adjustment knob plugged into the controller as well, and it lit up. If it doesn't light up, you can also try turning on the car, and it should light up blue, and that'll tell you that it's getting power and everything is wired up properly. So double check that. Then once I confirmed all the wiring was good, I went ahead and mounted the brake controller back here. Really, you can mount it on any flat surface. I've seen some people mount it on the airbag module. I just want it tucked back a little bit more. But I put some 3M tape on it, stuck it down, and it is secure. You don't want to hold it with something loose where it can move around or fall, because there is a sensor in there that tells the controller how hard you're braking, and that's what maintains the proportional function. So it only brakes as hard as it needs to. So As long as it's solidly mounted and it won't move, right here I can shake it and it's nice and firm, so it should be good to go. Now the last thing is to mount up the little remote knob, and so this is the plug for that. And what I'm going to do is drill a hole on top of here where there's a little bit of space, and then run the wire down the side, and then I want to mount this right here. For now I'll probably leave it loose while I test it on my trailer, but eventually I'll probably drill some holes on the side and just kind of zip tie it right here, so whenever I'm using a trailer I can just open the drawer and it'll be right here, and I'll have access to push it to get the manual braking, or I can turn the knob to adjust how hard it brakes, and you'll also be able to see the indicator light to know it's working and everything. And then otherwise when I close this, it'll be out of sight. So I think that's the best option. We're going to go ahead and drill the hole now and at least get it in place until I'm ready to hard mount it inside the drawer. All right, and here is our final wiring solution. So drilled a 1/2 inch hole on top. I had to kind of make it oblong a little bit because a 1/2 inch hole doesn't allow it to fit through easily. So you can kind of file one side or something, make it more ovaled, and that should allow the wire to come through. And then this is how I mounted the actual adjustment knob. So I just used 3M tape for now. I'm not sure how long that'll stay secure on the flocking, but I figure if I want to change anything, I can always pull it off and move it around before I actually drill holes for like a more permanent solution if you want to use zip ties or whatever. It's very tight up here, and if you close it, it just barely clears, but it does close. So that's why you want to kind of test fit before you lock everything down. Oop, and there you go. See, it's already falling off. But anyway, we can squeeze this and you see it light up. So we're getting power. So at least we know that's working. So we'll be testing that out. And again, I'll probably find a more permanent mounting solution, because even like this, it's probably fine. But I just want something that I can see while I'm driving. So go crazy, whatever you're comfortable with. I've seen people install like metal brackets and stuff in here. I just don't want to tear this all up. I want something that looks relatively OEM and kind of hidden, not super out there. So that's why I'm going this route. All right, guys, so I just wanted to do a quick review of the Redarc brake controller and having it integrated onto your BMW. I just got done with my first towing trip, and I can say it is great. I like it a lot more than the wireless brake controller I was using. That brake controller worked fine, but it was a lot more jerky, and from what I could tell, it was basically giving 100% of the braking force every time I hit the brakes. It was supposed to be a proportional controller, but at least in my experience, that aspect of it didn't seem to work very well. Now in this case, having it wired up to the car, it does a couple things. One is it calibrates, and I'll admit that process is a little bit annoying. For the first couple miles, whenever you hit the brakes, it's going to be a little bit lurchy, but it's going to try to figure out how much brakes it should be using based on the trailer and all that stuff. So it's going to test the setup every time you restart the car. But once it gets through that process, it's so much smoother. Now you'll know it's going through the calibration process because when you look at the adjustment knob, it'll be flipping back and forth between colors. But once it stays one solid color, that's how you know the calibration process is done. I left it in automatic mode, but if you put it in the manual mode, it'll be a different color. I think it turns green, but in the blue automatic mode, it works great. It's very easy and smooth. The brakes work exactly as you expect. You can still adjust the knob to get a little more or less braking once it's done with the calibration process, so use that as you see fit. But for me, it worked fine out of the box. It was smooth. There was no jerkiness or lurching that I felt with the Bluetooth controller, and it felt like it was trying to match what my brake pedal did. Every inch of brake travel gave me a little more braking from the trailer brakes as well, and you can still manually push the button to activate the trailer brakes if you need to when you get in, a sticky situation. Thankfully, I didn't have that issue, but I did test it a little bit and it worked perfectly. So yeah, highly recommend it. It just installs nice and neatly inside of the little drawer next to the steering wheel, and
It's out of the way for me now because I dropped off my trailer. When I hook up the trailer, I just open up the drawer and keep that open during my trip, and I still have everything else free. I'm not burning up battery on my phone, keeping that open the whole trip. It's just way nicer. I should have done this from the get-go. So hopefully this helps you guys out if you're interested in wiring up a brake controller to your car. Now, if you have a 2020 or earlier, it's, as far as I can tell, on every single car. It's just got that pre-wiring in there. But I believe if it's built after August of 2020, so if it's like a 2021 or newer, then most likely you're not going to have it unless you have the towing package. But as you can see, it's easy enough to take the drawer off and just look underneath the dashboard to see if you have that loose plug there, and that'll tell you for sure. You know, if you put eyes on it, you know that that's something you can take advantage of. So thank you guys for watching. I think that's all we had today, so I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.